Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's 11th of May, 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So we have an update here from Josh Davis all about the third Ethereum protocol fellowship cohort recap. So I've talked about the fellowship, this kind of program that the Ethereum Foundation runs for the Ethereum protocol, and how there's been, obviously two previous cohorts, and now this is the third cohort that will be that has been concluded, and then there is going to be a fourth one that is currently being prepared. So the applications for the fourth one will open soon, and there's a link here in the blog post for you to sign up to get notified when they open. So the third cohort is kind of detailed here. There were, I believe, there were over 600 applications, and 23 participants were selected to join the cohort. The cohort ended with a total of 36 contributors because it was a permissionless program. And you can see here the projects that each of the kind of people and teams worked on, ranging from core dev stuff like consensus layer, infrastructure, MEV stuff, data availability sampling, all that good stuff there. So basically everything got to do with the Ethereum core protocol itself is what these cohorts focus on. And you can see the picture here, which you may have seen on Twitter, I believe. I think this came out a few weeks ago. So this is the third cohort here, and there's a few familiar faces. Obviously, you'll recognize here, like Danny Ryan, front and center, of course, is probably the most recognizable, I think, out of everyone in this picture. But there are others here that I recognize just quickly. Terrence here from Pry Labs, or Off-Chain Labs now, and a few others there as well. And the next cohort, as I said, is starting soon. So if this is something that is interesting to you to work on Ethereum core protocol stuff, but you're not an official quote unquote Ethereum core developer and researcher, but you want to get involved with that, well, this is something that you should be signing up to. So as I said, the fourth cohort applications are going to be opening soon. If you want to sign up to get notified, there is a link at the top of the blog post, which of course will be linked in the YouTube description below for you to check out. And, I talk a lot about how far Ethereum core development and research has come over the years. And I think that this program is obviously one pillar of why it has come so far, right? There has been obviously a lot of work being done on funding with things like Protocol Guild and Gitcoin, and the Ethereum Foundation managing their funding, I think, better than they have previously, especially with things like grants and things like that. And obviously selling ETH at the right time, a lot of the time, and kind of locking in those fiat profits so they don't have to be at the whims of ETH's volatility, of course. But there's been a lot of that happening. But as I said, like one of the core pillars is this new protocol fellowship that has been done, where essentially you get in all these smart people who are both motivated and interested in contributing to core protocol development and research, but may need guidance on that. Because at the end of the day, coming in as like a fresh newbie into core development and research is quite daunting, right? You may be like the smartest guy around, the smartest person around. You may know everything there is to know about, research or development in the field that you've chosen. Maybe you are an expert at designing and building clients, right? Consensus layer client or execution layer client. Maybe you consider yourself to be an expert there. But even if you're the smartest person in the room, it still can be quite daunting because you are fresh, right? You're new. It's like starting any new thing. You are new to the space, new to the team, new to the whole kind of I guess like vibe of what's going on. So you obviously want to get some guidance there, and you want to be able to get someone or a group of people helping you along the way and showing you the ropes of how things are done, because you can be the smartest person in the room, but there's a lot more to, I guess, just generally to working on something than being smart about that thing, right? There are plenty of smart people who go and work for companies where it's just not a great fit for them. The culture doesn't work for them. The people that they're working with don't work for them, and they leave and they go somewhere else. That's totally normal. But within Ethereum core protocol development, what we want to do is foster as many of those intelligent, smart, motivated people as possible to get involved with core protocol development and research in order to make it so that the current crop of core developers and researchers aren't just, I guess, like set in stone forever, right? Because I mean, and obviously we want to keep the best people, but at the end of the day, it's a centralization vector to have only a handful of people working on these sorts of stuff. And at the end of the day, people get interested in different things. They maybe move on. Maybe there's other work that they want to be doing. They don't want to be a core developer or researcher for their whole life. And also, people age. If we're talking about Ethereum as an ecosystem and as a network surviving and thriving for decades, if not centuries, well, there's no way we can have the same crop of core protocol developers and researchers for that entire time. Even I think over like a 10-year period, it would be interesting to see how many core devs and researchers are still doing as much work as they were doing on when they first joined, for example. I don't believe there's actually many left. There are some off the top of my head that I can think of, like Peter from Geth, who's been around since basically day one, and there's a few others out there. But in terms of people who have come and gone, there's been a lot, right? There's been a lot of churn there. But that's healthy churn. It is not churn because no one wants to work on this stuff or it's a toxic place to work or anything like that. I don't think so. I think it's a healthy churn where essentially people come, they contribute what they can, and then they feel like maybe, okay, well, I've contributed all I can here, and this is no longer something that I want to be using or doing with my time. I'll go join this team, or I'll go work on this, and that's totally healthy. But in order to keep it healthy and for it to not turn into something toxic, we need to be putting in the effort to train and to embrace the next cohorts, right, of core protocol researchers and developers, which is exactly what this program does. So hopefully that gives you a bit more context around core development and research. And as I said, the link to sign up to get notified when the 4th cohort applications go live will be in the YouTube description below. All right, so speaking of core development, it's really great to see when people from competing teams or competing projects basically complement their competitors. So you can see here, Terrence put out a tweet today saying, "Congrats to Sigma Prime, which is the team that builds the Lighthouse clients, because they actually overtook Prism as the dominant consensus layer client on the Beacon chain." So you can see here, this screenshot is from the client diversity website that I show a lot on the Refuel. While Lighthouse is now at 38.26% of the network, whereas Prism is at 37.87%. And this is crazy to me for a number of different reasons. As Terrence says here, Ethereum client diversity has come a long way, and it has. Prism used to be, I think it was like 70 or 80% of the network, and it wasn't that long ago. It's like 12 to 18 months ago or something like that, where they were the majority, and there was a massive push in the community to get people to switch over from Prism to another client. And the Prior Labs team in particular took this very, very well and actually encouraged it as well, because they are not monopolists, right? They are not people who just want to see Prism being the dominant client and every other client just not getting any market share. They understand that Ethereum as a network thrives and the community values client diversity, and they push for that as well. And now it's gone to the point where they are actually second place. They were first place for very good reason for a long time, actually. They put a lot of effort into making sure that their client was as easy to use as possible, and that's why they were kind of and they did a lot of marketing as well. I mean, I wouldn't call it marketing in the traditional sense, but they were very, very visible compared to the other clients out there. But since then, obviously, the ecosystem has evolved greatly. And now Lighthouse is ahead with Teku, Nimbus, and Lodestar with a smaller market share here. But, Teku isn't that far behind for a client that really has no marketing from what I've seen. I mean, they do obviously put out tweets and things like that. But if you were to ask someone, what are the consensus layer clients on Ethereum, they're probably going to start by rattling off Lighthouse, Prism, and then go down the list from there. And I think most people are really just aware of Lighthouse and Prism at this point, except if you're a staker, right? If you're an active staker, you probably know about all of them. But it's actually pretty cool to see Teku up at 17% here. And Nimbus is at 6% as well, and Lodestar is relatively new at 0.79%. But yeah, it just goes to show that there is no lock-in here. Like I guess like client diversity can and will be changed over time. Clients will flip other clients, and that's totally healthy and totally okay. And I've talked in the context of client diversity a lot around execution layer client diversity, which is kind of like the next frontier, I think, because we haven't. I mean, using the term solved here might not be right, but we've kind of like solved consensus layer client diversity, where obviously the ideal case would be that no client has like over 33% market share, but we don't live in an ideal world. We live in like the best that we can get something to world, right? And I think this is maybe not the best that we can get it to, but pretty close. And I am actually very happy with how this looks and how the consensus layer client diversity looks here. Whereas on the execution layer side of things, there's obviously a lot to be desired here. But in saying that, it actually, funny enough, is more even than the consensus layer side, because as you can see here, Geth obviously is number 1 at 61%, but Nethermind, Aragon, and Besu are actually much closer than Prism, Teku, Nimbus, and Lodestar are, just based on a percentage basis. So if Nethermind, Aragon, and Besu keep growing at a same kind of similar steady pace, and Geth's dominance obviously keeps falling because of that, then the execution layer side will actually, or could actually end up looking a lot healthier than the consensus layer side, just from a pure kind of distribution perspective, which is actually pretty cool. But right now, obviously, it's not healthier because Geth is still too much of the network. But with all the improvements that are happening on the other clients, especially Nethermind, who has been doing a lot of improvements around making it easier to run the client, lowering memory usage and things like that, I do believe that that Geth is going to come down here. And I know that I've been hearing and talking to people about an initiative that's going to be happening around this as well. So the community is going to be pushing an initiative of getting people to switch from Geth to a minority client. So I'm not concerned here about getting this this kind of this execution layer client diversity fixed, basically. But yeah, very great to see this, and kudos to Terrence from the Prior Labs team and the whole Prior Labs team, really, for being so positive about this. As I said, they are not monopolists. I don't think anyone in the Ethereum client space on the consensus layer side or the execution layer side are monopolists. They care first and foremost about the health of the Ethereum network, and a healthy Ethereum network is a client-diverse Ethereum network, as I've explained plenty of times on the refuel, so I won't rehash why there. But yeah, just wanted to highlight that for you guys there. All right, Aditya from the Ethereum Foundation has shared a new Ethereum research post titled "Removing Unnecessary Stress from Ethereum's P2P Network," or peer-to-peer network. So basically what Aditya describes here is, he says, Ethereum is currently processing 2 times the number of messages than are required. Validators spend half of their bandwidth aggregating messages created by just a few participants. The fix allows large stakers to consolidate their stake into fewer validators. So essentially what this would mean is that right now you can see the problem is that the Ethereum network exists as the cloud here. There's individual attestations, and all stakers will equally attest and cause that overhead, right? But then you have, then there are, I guess, like the problem appears when a large staker controls multiple validators. So a staker here is a staking entity. So for example, if you go to Raider.network, and the website I've shown a bunch on the refuel before, there are large staking entities that control a lot of validators. You know, Coinbase has, what is it, 12, 13% of validators that they directly control. I don't mention Lido because Lido validators are actually distributed out with 29 or 30 different entities controlling it. So it's not like Lido as one entity controlling the validators. So it's better to use the Coinbase example where there is a massive validator on the network, a massive entity on the network controlling 13% of validators. Well, it would be good to consolidate that so that they didn't have to actually publish all of these messages, and they could consolidate them. And that's what Aditya's kind of 8th research post is about here, and he gives a few different ways this could be done and discusses them, and there's a couple of replies here that you can read as well. So this is just something, I guess, is more of a, I mean, it's not a user-facing upgrade, right? It's more of a kind of thing that just makes the network healthier. This is what I mean when I talk about network health generally. This here would just make the network a lot healthier. It would mean that validators can potentially be more stable, and it means that it removes unnecessary strain on the validators, especially obviously for these bigger stakers. And it's not just for, I guess, like big stakers like Coinbase. It's for any entity that controls a large amount of validators. You know, if you control 1, 2, 3 validators, that's not really going to be, you know, something like this wouldn't actually mean much for you. But if you're controlling hundreds and thousands, tens of thousands of validators, well, that starts to get very, you know, that starts to put a lot of stress on the hardware that you're running them on, and you don't want to put unnecessary stress on that hardware from things that you don't need to be doing. So that's what Aditya is proposing here. So you can go give this a read for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, so I spoke yesterday about this new EIP for execution layer exiting of validators. Now, Superfizz has expanded on this by putting it in the context of the 3 kinds of exits that exist for Ethereum solo validators. So the first one is a voluntary exit that solo validators can exit by signing a transaction. This is a normal exit. You know, if you're a validator, you go on and you want to exit the active staking pool, you basically say, okay, well, I want to exit my validator, signing this transaction, and then you go into the exit queue. Then second up would be the forced exit by the execution layer, which is the EIP that I mentioned yesterday. So stakers who stake for a service could be forcefully exited. And then third is a forced exit by slashing, which is a penalty for breaking the chain rules. And that forced exit happens when you are slashed, and it's not just that you lose ETH from being slashed. You actually get kicked out of the active validator set. You go into the exit queue, and then once you're exited, you'll have to re-enter to become a validator again using that ETH. And you may only have 30 ETH instead of 32 ETH, so you'll have to top it up in order to enter and be a validator again on the on the beacon chain. So a cool thing about in the future having a forced exit on the execution layer is that it kind of reduces the risks around stake centralization, as kind of is alluded to here by Degeneralization, which is a Twitter account that replied to Superfizz. And then they continue by saying, because thanks to irresponsible actions of an unnamed service that rhymes with Fido, something like that is badly needed. And then Superfizz continued in his tweet by saying, even though this isn't available yet, it won't carry a penalty from the chain, but the staker provider may issue a penalty if they use it against a contracted staker. So this is pretty cool. I think this is something that's obviously sorely needed and is needed from these staking providers, and something that just needs to be, I guess, like put into it's been put into an ERP, but something that needs to be put live on the network before it is possible here. But it doesn't seem like this would be something controversial or anything like that. It seems like something that people really want, not just the providers themselves, but obviously Ethereum community members, because they know that it will lead to a healthier Ethereum network. But yeah, just some extra context there for you. And I'll link the tweet in the YouTube description below for you to check out if you want to. All right, so Instadapp has announced something called the Avocado Multisig, which is a secure and user-friendly multisig, which they're claiming is the ultimate solution for individuals, teams, and institutions alike. So you can see that this is the landing page, or I guess like the interface for the Avocado Multisig here, and they're detailing their features on here. In the Twitter thread. So the first major feature is that it's a same address for all chains. The Avocado Multisig enables the same address to be used across all chains, providing an EOA or externally owned account-like experience for multisig users. This is a pretty big deal because there have been issues in the past where essentially you'd have to redeploy the multisig to the other chain that you want to use, such as an L2, in order to actually use it. And not lose funds. I believe there was actually a fund loss that ended up happening around the OP token with a market maker because of this issue. The second major feature is gas abstraction. So this simplifies the transaction flow for all signers. Users only need to sign while one person adds the USDC gas, one gas balance for all your needs on any chain. Network abstraction. So the Avocado Multisig maintains the same network abstraction capabilities as the current Avocado, and security. Multi-signature technology offers the highest level of security for managing digital assets, ensuring optimal protection of your assets. And they continue on here with a couple more tweets. This is huge, I think, for a few different reasons. One, it gives some competition to the safe multisig, which is being used by the majority, I think, of people at this point, and they have a lot of TVL. I believe it's like, I don't know how much. I think it's maybe $50 billion of TVL or something like that, or total value in there that's being secured by Safe. And also, competition is always good for a number of different reasons, because I don't know if Safe actually does something like this with the same address for all chains, and I don't think they do the gas abstraction yet. They do the thing where if you sign the transaction, you don't have only one person has to pay the gas. You don't have to pay gas for signing. The old Safe version required you to pay gas for everyone to pay gas to sign the transaction, which was not great. But the new one doesn't. But I don't think they abstract it away like Avocado Multisig does here. So yeah, just great to see more competition in the multisig space. You can read the thread for the full details here, and there's also a video, I believe, linked at the end of the thread for you to check out, and I believe that you'll be able to check this out soon. I don't think the Avocado Multisig is live yet, but it will be live as part of the Instadapp Avocado suite soon rather than later. All right, so I mentioned my tweet yesterday that I put out about the Ultrasound.money website and how people have become confused about this supply change number at the top of the Ultrasound.money website and then the kind of burn and issuance numbers. Well, I guess thanks to my tweet and feedback that I passed on to the Ultrasound.money team, they have updated this to make it more clear. So you can see here on the on the top of the Ultrasound.money website, under the supply change, I guess like box here, they've actually got the words issued and burned next to the right hand side here, where it's got the like water droplet and the fire emoji. Now, you may think that this is redundant, or you may think that this is silly because it should be pretty self-explanatory what these things are, but I actually don't think that's the case, because the water droplet doesn't really translate to issuance for most people. I think unless you're like in the know, it doesn't really, like for example, the fire emoji, everyone knows that is a burn, right? Everyone would be able to instantly tell that is ETH burned, but the water droplet I don't think does. So it actually makes sense to put the issued, I guess, like terminology here, and then put burned next to here so it doesn't look silly, even though everyone knows what that is. So that's a great little quality of life update there, which I think is pretty cool. I do think that it's good and it's a great update. It may not be enough to avoid some confusion, because I think that what ended up happening was that people look at this number, the supply change number, and they immediately think, oh, that must be the amount of ETH burned in the time frame that I've selected, just for whatever reason. I think it's become a kind of thing where it's basically like they don't even think about it. They look at it and they think, oh, okay, that's the amount of ETH burned. So it may be worth just putting something more obvious here. I don't know what it is. I'm really bad at UI UX design generally. But I think Alex here from the Ultrasound.money team actually mentioned that breaking the site so the top section can have a large supply label, and another idea would be to use different colors entirely for supply delta versus simple burn. I think things like that can work. Colors and color coding things are obviously are pretty great from a UI UX perspective, but generally there's only so much you can do. If people are going to keep making the same mistake, or I guess like not making the same mistake but having the same misconception, then it may need a kind of entire rework here, or it may need just more explanation, where essentially maybe you have like a box here, and instead of having all this information on the right hand side, you would have an explanation about what this actually is and how it's calculated and all that. It's always a delicate balance between overloading the people watching the site or looking at the site and scaring them off, or educating them as best as you can. So I think this is just a great little addition here so far. I just wanted to highlight for you guys that was there, but there'll probably be more coming as time goes on there. All right, so I haven't spoken about the MEVWatch.info website in a while now, and there is a good reason for that, because no news in this case is good news. So the good news is that the OFAC compliance stopped going up and went down. The no news is that the OFAC compliance has stopped going down as well. So we're at around 30% enforced OFAC compliance across all relayers at this point in time, and it has been that way for quite a while now. So you can go down here and see how long this has actually been the case. So 30% compliance started at about March 19th. So we're almost 2 months where it really hasn't moved much. It's kind of, I mean, it's kind of like, what's the term I'm looking for? It's, there's a word that describes what this does. It's kind of like hung around the 30% mark basically, and gone between 28 and 32%, I think. And there was like an abnormal spike here in mid to late April. I think that was due to some crazy gas fees on the network, or some spike that resulted in that. And there was also a spike down here as well. I mean, but generally, if you average it out, it's at about 30%, which is very positive, obviously. And you can see here what the current relayer landscape looks like. So Flashbots went from 90% to now 28%, and Ultrasound.money is at 40%. So they are the biggest relayer right now. So Ultrasound.money is the biggest, not only is the biggest non-censoring relayer, but it is the biggest relayer, period. And then Agnostic Boost is at second place with 17.7%, and Blockstrat Max Profit is at 7.3%. Now, the only censoring relayer that's bigger than the top, I believe, like top three, non-censoring relayers is Flashbots. The next biggest censoring relayer is Block Native with 3.3%, and then Blockstrat Regulated with under 1%. So just amazing how fast this landscape changed, like relatively fast it changed since the sanctions obviously came out. And it's great that we've actually kind of plateaued here. I think that it's fine that we're at 30%. Obviously, in an ideal world, it will be at 0, and maybe it will one day when we get like in-protocol PBS and things like that. But 30% is great, because when you think about it, that means that you have a pretty good chance of getting your sanctions, in this case, Tornado Cash transaction, included in a block within 1 or 2 blocks, basically. You have an almost 100% chance within within 3 blocks, I believe. And I don't know the exact math off the top of my head, but you really don't have to wait long. That's under a minute, right? That's like 30 seconds or something like that. 36 seconds is 3 blocks there, so, or 3 slots technically. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that no news is good news in this case. Just really awesome to see how the Ethereum community came together to solve this issue. Well, I mean, I don't think I'd call it solved, but like mitigate this issue as much as possible. And there are still a lot of research going on to solve this issue, and a lot of development going on to make MEV, or at least the toxic externalities of MEV, a thing of the past. And obviously censorship is one big toxic externality of MEV, and there are a lot of people working on making sure that that definitely gets mitigated there. So anyway, you can go check this out for yourself at the MEVWatch.info website there. But I think that's going to be it for today. A bit of a shorter episode today, but hopefully you enjoyed it nonetheless. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.